Hey, good day. Mike Mata here. Again, we're going to talk about performance vision and show you how we can look at application performance over a period of time. So you notice across the top here, there are three buttons: applications, network, protocols. So we're going to start down the application side. We're at performance right now. And we see it shows you the breakdown of the application response time so that you can identify the origin of a change in performance. Basically, we're going to look at client time, server round trip time, etc., and plot all that in a graph. So here we go. I'm going to look at the last 2 hours. So it's as simple as picking the last 2 hours and then application, performance, and search. And here we go. So we can see over the last 2 hours, it is plotted in the graph here. The client time, data transfer time, that's this light pink. And you can kind of see that here at the top there. And then we have the server data transfer time, server response time, client round trip time, and server round trip time. So it's plotting all of that for us. And we kind of see some peaks there. There's one at about 600 milliseconds, and that seems to be the server data transfer time. And below that, it kind of shows us the retransmissions, if there were any retransmissions, the percent of server retransmissions and client retransmissions, so that we can see there are some retransmissions. And those of you network folks out there know that retransmissions potentially are bad. Typically, what causes retransmissions are dropped packets, CRC errors, cabling problems, physical layer network type problems. So we can see that there were some, and they kind of coincide with our the time there. Now that one doesn't, but this one definitely does kind of coincide with that top graph. And let's look at the bottom here, bottom graph, which is our number of transactions. And we don't see that our number of transactions has really spiked during that time. We do see a spike over here. So let's see if we can drill into this a little further. So if I look right here on this peak, there's our server data transfer time, so the time it took for the server to send the client the data that it has requested. We can click there, and here is the information that is being transferred. We can see there's quite a bit of data here. 2.4, the top was 2.4 meg, and that looks like that's on the database side, the SQL side. Not sure what that application there is, SQL Server there. But if we go to the right, we can sort of look at the different times that it was plotting. Ooh, that's ugly. That's ugly right there. We can see end user response time on our top application was 1.9 seconds. So that's what the end user would experience. And we can see on this one 4.4 seconds, and this is where some of these that one's even uglier. There's our data transfer time. Time to transfer 16.5 seconds to transfer the data there. So some of these here, like this one, this 4.4 seconds, 3.2 seconds of that is server processing time. And so it gives us kind of both the end user response time, what the end user feels, and then how much of that time is spent at the server finding the content. And in this case, 3.2 of the 4.4. 624 milliseconds was spent looking or transferring the data, not looking for it. It's looked for it right here. It took 3.2 seconds. And then 624, basically a little over a half a second to transfer the data. And this A says, if you really want, you can pull out the PCAP for that particular connection or that particular transfer. And I showed you that in a previous video. And if you'd like, maybe we'll do that again. But for now, we just want to show you the interface and how easy it is to figure out, where the problems are. If someone is complaining, I can look at the last 2 hours. I can go back in time even further. We can also look at some of the network pieces, the network bandwidth that's being utilized, the performance, network performance. We can look at the different protocols. So let's just do that real quick. Let's just look at our business critical networks. And for our last 2 hours, that's only the last minute here. Let's go back and do for the last 2 hours. But you can see we can go back to the last 60 days, last 7 days. How far back in time do you want to go? Now, it can only keep data for so long, obviously, not forever and ever. That has a finite amount of storage. But let's take a peek here and see what we come up with for the network time. And so there we go. Our network time, we've exceeded some thresholds over the last 2 hours for from remote sites like New York, obviously having some time problems here. So we can see the latency 235 milliseconds, retransmission rate 0, utilization's pretty minor. The London site is pretty much green. Marseille, Berlin, but obviously the New York site seems a little slow most of the time. 159 milliseconds, 282 milliseconds of latency, 419 milliseconds of latency. So again, we can look at the network, we can look at the applications, or we can even drill down into the protocols. And we'll take a look at that in a future video. Hope you learned a few things out of that and how to basically use Performance Vision's tool to look at your network and applications. Thanks for listening. Make it a great day.